All right, let me just check on my YouTube channel if I'm live. Hold on. Yeah, I'm live. Cool. I wanted to see. All right. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the channel. Today, I'm here with a group of friends, fellow Bears fans, fellow content creators. We'll go ahead and start with CB, then we'll go to Sobak, and then we'll go to Darby. We'll switch it up with the questions. But essentially, I just have these three creators. They're all YouTube creators. CB creates Bears content, as well as Sobak, and as well Darby has his own podcast. With Phil, he co-hosts a podcast where they talk about wrestling, the Chicago Bears. They've had Jacob Infante. Sobak makes YouTube videos, podcast editions. He also does editorial videos, and then CB streaming as well. They all have videos right now on the draft, breaking down the different players. So go ahead and check them out. I'll give them like a few seconds just to give themselves a quick intro, a quick shout out, and then we'll get into the show. So we'll start off with UCB, then we'll go to Sobak, and then we'll end with Darby.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you, Kumar, for setting this all up. This is my first time doing a sort of joint podcast here, so I'm really excited. As you guys can see, my name is Stevie3. That's also how it is on YouTube as well, if you guys want to check that out. I have been slacking a little bit, not going to lie. I do got to get the last 3 picks, I believe, in, the day 3 picks in, but I feel like we got some of the more notable players in the first 4 or 3 picks in the draft. But yeah, man, I'm excited to talk more about some Bears content, Bears in general. I mean, it's the Chicago Bears, man. I'm always down to talk about it, whatever. It could be 3 a.m. I'm still down for it.
Yeah. Kumar, I've made a pretty good introduction about me. Hi, everyone. My name is Sobak Sports. I pretty much do Bears content. Try to, I covered a lot about the draft in my latest video, but yeah, appreciate you for having me on, and I'm ready to talk about some Bears football.
Yeah, I love it. I put my 2 handles on the screen. I'm at Davey.17 and at Profane Pod. You can listen to the Professionally Profane podcast on YouTube, most importantly, but also on Spotify. Give us a follow on Twitter. We're always doing Bears content. We also dabble in a little baseball, a little basketball. Might do a little more hockey next season, and we do have a big draft vlog coming soon from our time up in Green Bay. So appreciate you having me on, man, and excited to talk about these draft picks, dude. Ooh.
Yeah, awesome. And then I'll give Slashing, I think he's ready right now. I'll give him just the opportunity to give him a quick intro. He does his podcast with Sobak. They're both brothers. So Slashing, why don't you tell the audience who you are, where they can find you, and kind of what you're all about.
Yeah, my name is like Ankit and IRL, but I am Slashing Got Next. I'm brothers with Sobak Sports, and we do a podcast on his channel. It's called the Sobak Sports Podcast, like you said. I'm on YouTube, Slashing Got Next. I do a lot of basketball and football content. Huge Chicago Bears fan.
We might have lost him. All right.
It's all good.
All right. So, I'll finish up Slashing's intro. So he makes basketball content. He goes live. And it's a podcast with Sobak. I actually went on their podcast, like I think a few weeks back. We kind of had a great conversation about the draft, about the off season. So that's Slashing for you. And then, this is kind of an impromptu live. So if you are watching this after, I will be posting clips so that you guys can watch in my typical style. So if you're not here live, well, you'll have clips to watch. But why don't we get ourselves started? I just want to get, your all is reaction, what you all thought about, the season, about us hiring Ben. Darby, since we did end on you, we'll start off with you, and then we'll go to Slashing, Sobak, and we'll end with CB, and then, me.
Yeah, it all feels different again. I feel like it always feels different, but this time it really actually feels different. When you have an organizational failure like the Bears have been for the last little while, clearly something major has to change, and it's not just one or two players. And we saw that last year. But I'd say it's the most excited I've been as a Bears fan in a very long time. I think that we'll talk about the draft picks, but a lot of guys who I think are going to be able to provide a lot for a new regime that is proven that it's a different future now than it was even last year. We looked at a team like the Bears.
Yeah, and then Slashing, you got any thoughts about off season, the overall the season and how it went?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a roller coaster season this year. Had a lot of high expectations, coming off of, two-time off-season champs. Like I was really excited for the season, seeing Caleb Williams. First time the Bears picked a number 1 overall pick as a quarterback. So it was really exciting. I think Caleb showed a lot of flashes this season. And I'm really excited to see how Ben Johnson can unlock him further. And I think this offseason, obviously getting Ben Johnson, very good for the Bears. I feel like he's a very creative offensive play caller, and we saw what he did in Detroit. And, I think we're going to talk about the drafts later, but I do like what he did in the draft on this year. Stuck to his identity. Drafting obviously a tight end in the first round. So yeah, I'm excited, and I think he can really take his offense to the next level with his creative play calling. And yeah, I'm just excited.
And then so back.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off what Slashing Next said, had some relatively high expectations going into this past season, but completely fell off the mark. But came out of it with some positives to kind of look back on, and started off this offseason or the playoffs really with just getting the head coach. And I think that's what's really important going forward, because that set the tone. And I think before that, actually, setting the tone for the offseason was beating the Packers at Lambeau Field and Caleb Williams being undefeated at Lambeau Field. I have to make sure that we, set that straight, and then we added Ben Johnson, went through a lot of additions in free agency. I think for the most part, when it comes to like the trenches and the offensive line, the identity is starting to form, and Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles are starting to be aggressive. I love that. And I think a lot of Bears fans are starting to catch on to that. And that pretty much translated as well into the draft, making some picks that addresses a lot of needs. And like Slashing said, Ben Johnson sticking to his identity. So I'm really looking forward to what's to come. We have a long offseason ahead of us. And yeah, there's a lot to discuss.
And then CB, if you want to give us your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone hit it on the head with that. I mean, we had pretty high expectations going into the season. And I would say even me, admittedly, maybe too high of expectations considering what we had, especially with Eberflus. And obviously after the whole Hail Mary situation with the Commanders, and not even just the play itself, but what led to that afterwards with Tyreek Stevenson holding the coaches accountable and everything. I think you just kind of saw what was sort of inevitable to happen that season. It just took a little longer than expected and gave us some false hope. But I like Soulback Sports said, just ending off the season on a W versus the Packers in Lambeau Field. I mean, you can't write much more of a storybook ending than that for such a disaster of a season. And I think that for Caleb Williams too, man, I mean, just having to deal what he had to deal with and still putting up, rookie record numbers for us is nothing short of amazing. And I mean, I think about like the class of 2021, the QB class, pretty much every QB except Mac Jones looked terrible, let's be honest. And you could just sort of tell that none of those QBs were really going to be franchise guys. Well, even with Caleb Williams being in the situation that he was, he showed that he has that potential. And even though he didn't throw 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, he didn't need to. He showed everything that he needed to. And now that you got Ben Johnson here, now that you've revamped the offensive line, now you went ahead and attacked some key pieces in both the draft and free agency, you're setting up Caleb Williams for such a really good season and just a lot of improvement. I'm not saying that we're going to win the Super Bowl or anything or make a deep playoff run, but that's not really what we need to do. We just need to make sure that Caleb Williams is set up for success, and Ben Johnson is the right guy for the job. I really do think he is. Obviously, we saw him revive Jared Goff's career when he was traded away along with 2 first-round picks, so that should kind of tell you what the league thought of him when he was traded away. But I absolutely love the head coaching hire. I love the staff, and most importantly, the staff that he built around him. You know, the O-line coach and Dan Rushar, Dennis Allen as defensive coordinator. I mean, you're just building all the right pieces. And now Caleb Williams, it's time for him to shine. I'm really excited for the 2025 season.
Yeah, same thing that everyone else said. Pretty happy that we got Ben and the best candidate on the board for once. Really going in and getting that superstar. In years past, we always kind of been hired that weird head coach. Whether it might be with Flus instead of going and hiring Brian Dable, or with Nagy. He kind of was the best on the board when we hired Nagy, but not to the extent that I would say Ben was. And then, if you go back in time with Mark Trestman and Bruce Arians, right? Seeing, hey, we could have gone and hired Bruce Arians, so he went with a Canadian football coach. So going in and getting Ben, it's like a sign that, hey, things are changing here. You guys want to be hooked up for the ride, and I think all that props goes to Ryan Poles. But really quickly, I know we just touched on it. We talked about offseason in the season, but what was your reaction when we hired Ben Johnson? And we'll go CB, Darby, / we'll end with Silback.
Yeah, man, I was super excited. I mean, you didn't need to overthink this one. He was the hottest head coach candidate out there. I know people were trying to throw in Mike Vrabel and Pete Carroll, and while those wouldn't have been, I guess, terrible options, not the worst option. I think I would have absolutely flipped out if we hired Brian Flores, in my opinion. But, as long as it wasn't him. But Ben Johnson was the best head coaching candidate, without a doubt. I mean, he's up there with Sean McVay as a play caller, and he has the opportunity to be as good, if not better than him. I mean, we have super high expectations for the man. But when you do what you do in Detroit and you make them relevant for the first time in pretty much this century with Jared Goff, it's not like they went ahead and drafted a quarterback that became good. He went ahead and took basically just damaged goods and revived that and became a Detroit offense that was top of the league pretty much his entire time that he was there. Taking a 5th-round pick like Amon-Ra and turning him into a superstar wide receiver. Taking a running back that most people thought was a reach at 12. And even I made fun of Lions fans for it. And he ends up being a top 5 running back in his league. You rebuild that offensive line. You do all these different things. And obviously, it wasn't just Ben Johnson. Obviously, Dan Campbell gets credit for that, as well as Hank Fraley, the offensive line coach over there. But Ben Johnson was a big reason why they were that good. And the players will definitely tell you, and the fans reacting to them signing to a division rival will definitely tell you that Ben Johnson was a key part, if not the biggest key part, as to why the Detroit Lions have been so potent these last 2 seasons. So I'm very excited for what he can do for Caleb Williams and this new and improved roster, man. I know it's a tough schedule coming up, but I'm still super excited. And now that we've got a team that can actually go ahead and maybe not beat everyone, but at least give a fighting chance and compete, I just want to see that. I want us to just see the massive improvement for our team. And for Ben Johnson, just go ahead and unlock Caleb Williams in the ways that we feel is possible for a talent like Caleb.
Yeah, and I think you saw a lot of last year that Caleb was, he was rattled, man. He was super rattled. Just would lose concentration, would had happy feet in the pocket. And so having a guy like Ben Johnson that you could feel a lot of confidence in, you're with him for a long time, all that's going to help a lot. I remember where I was when Ben Johnson got hired. I can't say the same thing from when Matt Eberflus got hired, or Matt Nagy got hired, or Mark Trestman got hired. I remember the reaction. I was in my office and I had 3 of my friends. We all found out at the same time. We all had to like do like a BRB restroom in the Slack chat so we can go and congratulate each other on it. So it's a really, really good hire. This is one of those moves that even if it doesn't work, you can't fault anybody. If Matt Eberflus doesn't work, you sit there and go, why didn't you hire this guy? There's so many other options. You don't get, you get Ben Johnson, it doesn't work out. You go, hey man, we tried. We did all we could on that one. So finally making that move that you can't really hate on, really good decision there. And I think we've already seen the huge value that he brings. He wants an offensive line. So he has an offensive line now. Everyone else in the past thought you could do without the offensive line, but I don't think it's coincidence the best offensive line the Bears have had this millennium ended up with the trip to the Super Bowl. So I love the move so far. I love the direction. I love the focus, and I'm really excited. I think they could surprise people year one personally.
Yeah. So like I agree with y'all. I think it was like the right move. Actually, like my second, like I think you didn't like mention him, but I think my second one with the Ben Johnson hire, I would have either wanted Ben Johnson or Mike McCarthy. The only reason why I wanted Mike is because I thought he was a good he did bring 12 wins like 3 straight years to the Cowboys, but obviously I'm happy with Ben Johnson, and I think it was just the right hire. Like we needed an offensive guru like Ben Johnson to help Caleb Williams. We need to break that cycle of getting defensive-minded head coaches, making a defensive identity of a team. And I feel like the moves that we did this offseason, getting an offensive line, getting receivers in the draft and in free agency, giving Caleb Williams a fighting chance to prove that he can be a franchise guy in the league and for this Bears organization. So I'm really happy we went with an offensive guy. And I think this Ben Johnson hire will also change the culture, because I feel like we're just like a losing culture. Like every year we're fighting for the 4th seed, and I feel like Ben Johnson, his winning in Detroit, and obviously I think Dan Campbell was a big factor with the culture in Detroit. But when Dan Campbell got there, the Lions were not like a winning team. They were always last. They were the sorry Detroit Lions. And then as soon as he hired when Ben Johnson came, the offensive line coach, I don't know his name, but he came. They really changed his offense, got Jared Goff to be arguably a top 5 to top 10 quarterback in the league. And I just feel like I think Caleb Williams is way more talented than him. So I think Ben Johnson, like I said before, will unlock Caleb Williams. And that's really what we need to see this year is just a growth. Can he get to 4,000 yards, or can he lead the Bears to at least a winning record? That's what I want, a 9-win team. So I think it was just the right hire. I'm really excited for the Ben Johnson tenure for the Chicago Bears.
100% agree, and with all of you. I guess my instant reaction, I exactly remember where I was. I was literally I'm not even lying when I say this. I was literally playing Madden downstairs, and I was scrolling through, because in between plays you sometimes scroll through Twitter and whatnot. Then all of a sudden I'm starting to see, wait, this Ben Johnson is a Chicago Bear, and I was I thought I was getting sent held or something like that too, because that's how because unreal it was, because the Chicago Bears for the longest time don't make that that really perfect hire necessarily when it comes to the head coach. I was preparing for obviously I personally I did not want Mike McCarthy anywhere near our organization, just for the sole purpose
Me neither.
of him being a Green Bay Packers head coach. Imagine the amount of ammo that Green Bay Packers fans could have against us if we hired Mike McCarthy. It would have been terrible. But I was thinking about either Todd Monken could be an option. That was one of my top choices personally. But the fact that we got the top choice, that holistic view of the NFL said that Ben Johnson was the top choice. We went out there, and not only did we go out there and get him, we are paying a decent sum of his for his salary, and that's something that shows okay, that's new. We've never really seen the McCaskies and the front office pay a lot of money for a head coach, a really
market
good head
value.
Coach. Yeah, market value, pretty much. Yeah. So it's kind of insane to me. And it's like, you know, like you said, culture change. That's what we needed from the start, especially after the horrific stint that we had with Matt Eberflus of just constant losing, seeing the bright side of a loss so many different times. Like it got boring at one point, you know? And you know, with the talented quarterback like Caleb Williams, it is very vital, especially going into a second year, that you get the head coaching hire right, you get the staff right, and then you get the personnel correct. And I think with what their approach is that they're really serious this year. Like they realize that this has to be right. We have to do everything possible. We can't take any shortcuts, because if we do take shortcuts just to save a little bit of like a couple $1,000,000, like it's going to blow up in our face and our jobs are on the line, you know? So I love this hire. I can't stress that enough. And it's reaping the fruit. Like, I don't know what's called, like the term for it, but it's like, it's everything is coming to fruition right now when it comes to personnel. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right. What's up, Celie? I mean, just for me personally, I think it was like some Monday, so we had the day off. But I was just, you know, in my house chilling. I think I was on Reshop's stream actually. And then yeah, I was in a stream, and then he was like screaming because people want to go to the airport, right? And they were like, we're gonna go and chase him, and we're like, hey, we're gonna go and hire Ben Johnson because some dude posted it. And then I remember in the stream, he's like, oh my God, it happened. And then yeah, we hired Ben Johnson. You know, I don't think a lot of us believed that it would happen. Then we had a dream it would happen. But we didn't really expect, oh my God, the Bears are actually gonna pull this off. But I mean, I had confidence. I thought it would happen, but you know, I'm safe for sure. But yeah, the fact that we got him, Bam, the changes that we're already seeing, honestly, with offensive line, with how he wants more and more competition. Those are stuff that you want to see in a head coach, right? Those are stuff that you like you want to see a head coach, because like if you think about it, with Matt Eberflus, he was like kind of laid back, pretty boring. There was like no aura, I guess, like nothing from him to show, hey, you know, I'm going to instill confidence in this team. Like I remember on Hard Knocks, he told the team, hey, don't go out there and fight. But Ben Johnson, I feel like he's going to bring like a different vibe. Like he's not going to tell them, hey, go and fight the other team, but he's going to bring that hustle mentality, that, you know, that dog mentality, and you know, make this team competitive. You know, we might have a few fights when we bring another team. But that's like mentality that you want. That's the mentality you're seeing in Ben, along with that genius. So I'm really excited. But yeah, we'll get into the meat of our stream today, which is going over the 2025 NFL draft class. We'll start up with Colston Loveland. I want to start off with Slashing and Sobek, because, you know, I know that Slashing especially wasn't too happy when he got the news that we were going to draft Colston. So hopefully that has changed. But you know, I kind of want to see what you guys thought about this job. We'll start out with Colston and we'll keep going. And yeah, Slashing, why don't you talk about what you thought about us drafting Colston?
Yeah, Slashing. What did you think about him? Huh?
All right, so you know, okay, so like me and Sobek, we did like a live stream for this, and like, you know, I was just surprised. Okay, first of all, like I was surprised. Like Colston Loveland, like I knew who he was because he played Illinois, and I watched that game, Illinois versus Michigan, and I just knew I knew that game he was clamped. Like he was not playing good against Illinois. But I'll say this: at my first reaction to it was I was just shocked, and I really wanted Jalen Walker. I was really high on Jalen Walker a lot, and I felt like I wanted an edge or like a linebacker. But you know, after I slept that night, you know, I left the stream, slept it off. I saw a lot of reports of how good Colston Loveland is as a player, really good blocker, route runner, and yeah, I'm okay with the pick now. And obviously, I have to understand that we have to like trust Ben Johnson, because you know it is his first draft, and I feel like he has a mindset of what he wants. So, you know, and he is sticking to his identity. He wants to run a 12-man offense. So I'm just gonna trust that he knows what he's doing. I was hearing a lot about Tyler Warren, so I thought like if he's going with tight end, I thought the pick was Tyler Warren. But if he thinks that Colson Loveland is a better player and he's better than Tyler Warren, I'm just gonna accept it and hope the best. And I feel he could be good. So I'm obviously hoping that Colson Loveland pans out, and I think him and Cole Kmet could be a really good duo. But yeah, I was shocked. Like I won't say that. I was shocked that we went with Colson Loveland. I thought either we were gonna like trade back because I thought Banks was gone, and Genty obviously was gone, and I thought we were gonna trade back, and Membu I think was gone too, or you could draft Warren. But you know what? He got flamed. I remember he got, like you said, the Lions drafted Gibbs like 2 years ago, and it worked out. So maybe that's the type of pick. Ben knows what he's doing, so I'm gonna trust it.
Yeah. So back, what about you? I know you were kind of on the same fence as Slashing.
I will say like, okay, I was kind of like, I was already in the mentality that, I trust Ben Johnson with his picks. Like initially I was like, okay, that's something. A tight end with the top 10 pick, because we were like all up and about with, potentially trading up to get Ashton Genty and whatnot. But, with Mason Graham off the board, with Ashton Genty off the board, bunch of players off the board, and Tyler Warren available and Jalen Walker available, it was kind of like, oh, so you went with the Michigan tight end, Colston Loveland. So that's something. But then I realized, hey, who's our head coach? Ben Johnson. And he has a vision that he wants to instill. And it's not like Colston Loveland is like a bad player. He's like, it's arguably Warren and him can fight for the top tight end in that draft. So I genuinely trust him. And the more I read about it, the more I understood like Loveland's build and his play style really fits with what Ben Johnson does on the field, play calling wise. And it was just a better fit. And I think like we're going to probably get into it. Like a lot of this draft was based on, Ben Johnson's philosophy and and more about, rather than getting the best pick available, it's more about fit. And I think that's what Ben Johnson's approach was throughout this thing, because if it were best pick available, we would be getting all the candidates that were like, mocked in our bunch of our mock drafts. Like we would not be asking ourselves in the third round and fourth round on so forth, like, who is this guy we drafted? We have to like look them up and all that. Like for the most part, we like did that. And that's because I think Ben Johnson really wanted players that fit his scheme. So all in all, I think the pick was fine and it's really good. Like the more I sleep on it and the more like I hear about it, I really like the pick a lot now. It went from like on the initial draft day was like, I think in my mind, like a C, and now it's like at a like B plus near A minus like pick right now for me. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, CB, why don't we go to you? And then we'll end with Darby because he was actually there live. So I wanna get his thoughts on the live reaction of the team, the live reaction of the Green Bay fans. So CB, why don't you kind of talk to us about your thoughts? I know you two were kind of mad at first. So give us your thoughts on Colston.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I hated the pick at first. When I was at Pyramid, it was a sports bar in Addison, and I was there. Once Genty got drafted, first off, my heart just immediately dropped, and 50% of my face just completely went away just from that pick alone. But even though I kind of knew it was gonna happen, but when number 10 came along, I was on the same train as y'all. I wanted Jalen Walker. I was fine with like Mike Green, James Pierce Jr., Kenneth Grant. You could talk me into like Walter Nolan or whatever, something on the defensive line or even an offensive lineman I could at least understand. And when the pick was tight end, I thought it would be Tyler Warren, like just straight up. I thought Tyler Warren was the better prospect of the two. And when Loveland got drafted, I was pretty pissed. But when I slept it off and I kind of thought about it in the morning, there was one thing that I remembered about Ben Johnson that kind of changed my whole perspective on this team. And it's the fact that Ben Johnson, before he became a play caller, was a tight ends coach. So if there's any position that we are not going to draft that is an absolute need that I want the Bears to take a chance on, it's going to be tight end. It's going to be the position that Ben Johnson specializes in and earned him the play calling job, that earned him the head coaching job. So if there's anybody on this staff that knows anything about tight ends, it's Ben freaking Johnson. All right. So when I look at Colston Loveland, and you know, obviously you've seen all the measurables. He's 6'6", 250 pounds almost. I mean, this dude is the perfect tight end to run Ben's system. I mean, he looks so much like Sam Laporta. I know we kind of said that comparison over and over, but it's so right, man. I think Tyler Warren would have been, you know, in my opinion, a better pick. But if we're talking about scheme fit, and like I said, Ben Johnson having that specialty of tight end in his background, I really feel like Colston Loveland is a much better pick than a lot of us initially realized. And so when you look at Colston Loveland being sort of a slot wide receiver, and honestly being one of the better route runners in the draft, going for both tight ends and wide receivers. There are a lot of wide receivers, even in the league right now, that cannot run routes like Colston Loveland can. And this dude is 6'6", 250 pounds. That is insane. And just being able to draw up plays with that, man, and having Cole Kmet still on the roster, man, I can't for the life of me understand why I was so mad at first. And I think it was just because I kind of had my heart set on maybe a few other guys. And I kind of got to talk to myself and be like, you know what? There's a reason why Ben Johnson is the head coach and I'm stuck at home. So I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, I know more than Ben Johnson. We should have picked this guy. That would be absolutely idiotic of me. I love the pick. I wouldn't say it's an A+ pick for me personally, but like I said, if Ben Johnson thinks that this is the best move, if Ryan Poles thinks this is the best move, who am I to disagree? So I'm going to let them do the draft. I'm going to shut up and put up and just watch the 2025 season, watch what happens. I'm super excited for Colston Loveland, man. I mean, he's a mismatched nightmare all over the field. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're putting him in the slot. You're either putting a nickel DB on him that's fast enough to keep up with him, but too weak to overpower him, or you're putting a slower linebacker that can't keep up with him. So you really just pick your poison with the defensive coordinators are going to have so much nightmares just trying to guard that guy. And then you still got to guard DJ Moore and Roma Dunze. And then on top of that, Luther Burden, which we'll talk about next. But, man, I absolutely love the pick right now. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with him.
Yeah, for sure. And another reason why I want to end it with Davey here is because he is a Michigan fan. You know, me being an Ohio State fan, I don't know how we lost that game, considering they have like I don't know how we lost that game, considering they have an undrafted, a walk-on starting there.
It's okay. We took care of them.
They have someone else.
We took care of them. Illinois did. We took care of them.
Yeah. Ohio State's just little bro. That's what it is. It's been how many days? How many days has it been since Ohio State beat Michigan again? I forget the number.
I don't know, man. It's been a while, but it's okay. We're coming back next year. We'll have Aaron Noland, so he'll take care of us. But David, you were there live.
Yeah.
You were a Michigan fan. We have Jack here, who brought up a pretty great point. The fact that Loveland was great at Michigan, and he was a key part of their national championship. And I even argue that the reason on why there's such a drop in production on Loveland is because of that quarterback situation, is because of what went on in Michigan last year.
Yeah.
So, Davey, being a Michigan fan, going there live, what was your reaction? How did you react to Ashton Jeanty? Why don't you talk to us about, you're the Colston Loveland expert, so, just give us a rundown.
Yeah. Dude, Colston Loveland rocks. I love Colston Loveland. I'm going to give you some stats really quick because last year, Colston Loveland missed 3 games. And I want to give you a little insight as to how bad the offense at Michigan was. So Colston Loveland missed 3 games last year as tight end for the Wolverines. He had 29 more catches than any other player, 334 more yards, and 3 more touchdowns than any other person on their entire offense. Missing games as a tight end. He is really, really good. He is aggressive. He's big. He's young. He's athletic. I mean, he is everything you want in a tight end, if I'm being honest. People have been talking about Sam Laporta being the comp, but, there's a reason why Colston Loveland was rated much higher on boards than Sam Laporta, because those things that Laporta is good at, Loveland is at least as good, if not better, in many of those areas. Now, he's going to have to actually prove it at the NFL. But, when I see that Colston Loveland's comp is Sam Laporta, I think I think Sam Laporta's comp is Colston Loveland, if that makes sense. I think that Laporta's going to have to work to be as good as him. This could be a game-changing pick for an offense. Getting a guy like this, as you mentioned, matchup nightmare everywhere on the field. He ran out of routes out of the slot almost 50% of the year last year. So he is not only able to do it, he's comfortable doing it. And as you mentioned, those nickelbacks are usually smaller, shiftier guys. I mean, Colston Loveland can box those guys out like you see those dominant centers do in the NBA. He's a dog, man. I give it an A grade. I think he fits this team way better than Tyler Warren. I don't mind that they don't go running back in the first round. I think Ashton Genty will be good, but I have no reason to think Colston Loveland can't have at least that big of an impact on a team as Ashton Genty will, especially if he has the right quarterback, which I think for sure he does. But man, being in Green Bay, these Packer fans, man, they're casuals. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to come out and say it. It's a podunk little town in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. They have nothing to do up there. It's a boring place. And they didn't even know who Colston Loveland was. So I just say they're going to find out soon. They'll find out really soon when Caleb Williams is beating them twice a year, throwing the ball to Colston Loveland. They're going to know who that man is, and they're going to regret laughing at us after his name was announced at number 10 as I held the bear claw up the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was in the group, we were on this Twitter group together. And I remember us all going off when we heard that, oh my God, Ashton Genty got drafted by the Raiders. I think I really wanted him deep down, and you guys know how badly I wanted him. So my heart sank when Ashton Genty got off the board. I'm like, damn, there goes our opportunity, right? And I was thinking, okay, at 10, you can go in and get someone from Georgia, Micah Williams, or the other guy, or you can go and get Tyler Warren. And when I got a notification that, we got Colston Loveland, I was like, I don't know about this, to be honest with you. But then I just started more and more to think about it. The fact that Tyler Warren and Cole Kmet both relatively play the same position. Yes, Tyler Warren does everything better than Cole Kmet, but they're the same guy. I don't really see the reason for us to go and get Tyler Warren when Colston Loveland was better, when he was younger, when the only reason for his drop in production was because of Michigan's quarterback situation. Like, had they had DJ McCarthy, had they had who they're starting now, this would have been a completely different team at Michigan, and a completely different Colston Loveland that we're talking about. The fact that the notifications that we got, the news that we got after, was that people wanted to trade up this guy. This all make you stand up and say, hey, the Bears pulled it off. And you're going to see a lot of 12 personnel, a lot of kind of what Ben did in Detroit with Sam Laporta here, with Colston Loveland, and then with Luther Burden, who we're going to talk about next. I'll start off with Luther Burden, and I'll go on to you guys. For me, Luther Burden was a home run pick for me. I think this was the best pick that Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson got, especially considering that Henderson, Judkins, the main running backs that he wanted were all off the board by 39. The fact he can go in and get, the fact that we can go in and we got Luther Burden was a huge shock, and I love that. But let's go back, and we'll start out with CB. We'll go to Slashing So Back, and then we'll end it with Darby. So what did you guys think about Luther Burden, and you guys' overall thoughts on it?
Yeah, when Luther Burden was picked, man, I was actually at the Old Orchard Mall, and I was with my girlfriend at a PacSun, and I basically told her, go to the women's section and go shop over there. I'm gonna be in the corner like a homeless crackhead, just watching on my phone, looking at the draft and
the American dream.
The pick, right? And when I was listening to the draft, and it was Luther Burden, it was another one of those surprising picks. I don't think I was as mad as the Colston Loveland pick, admittedly, but I think it was one of those, like, damn it, I heard receiver, and that's really what kind of brought down my mood. And now I'm like, wait a second, Luther Burden. Oh my gosh, wait a second. This is Luther Burden we're talking about. And if you guys don't know, he was my number 2 wide receiver in the draft. And honestly, it was really 1A, 1B with Teteroa McMillan. And if the Panthers went ahead and selected Luther Burden, honestly, I would have not blamed him one bit. I think he's that good. I think he was super underutilized. And one stat really here that kind of gets me, other than the fact that he had 1,200 yards in back-to-back seasons, 75% of his career catches in college were under 10 yards. So you think about that stat and the fact that he was able to put up 1,200 yards with the shitty play calling that he had, with the subpar quarterback play that he had. Being able to do that and still put up numbers is absolutely amazing. It's sort of like Colston Loveland and his situation, still being able to produce. And I think Ben Johnson is definitely seeing the potential in these guys. And just having that slot receiver, a guy who's comped to guys like Deebo Samuel and DJ Moore, admittedly. I didn't really see the DJ Moore until I looked at the highlights more, and I was like, oh, damn, okay, I can see it now. But I love the pick, man. It's one of those picks that it was once again like, damn it, I kind of wish it was TreVeyon Henderson, but he was picked before. And it was funny because I actually do have a friend who's a Patriots fan, and I was telling him like, dude, if Luther Burden falls to y'all at pick 38, y'all got to pick him up. And he was like, yeah, I'm really hoping we do. And I told him like, I want, when you guys pick him up, I think the Bears are going to pick Henderson. So it's funny that we just kind of took each other's players, but at the end of the day, man, Luther Burden is a dog. I mean, we saw, I'm not sure if you guys saw this, Jameson Williams texted Ben Johnson after they picked him and said, you got a dog just like me. So, a solid NFL player kind of giving props to another rookie NFL wide receiver, a guy that runs a 4.4 40-yard dash, and just sort of having his own like Amon-Ra. Obviously not exactly the same player, but a guy who can just be very productive in the slot. And really, when I think about it more, it definitely helps for depth purposes, because behind Rome Odunze and DJ Moore, and this is sort of the situation last year where we had great starters, but outside of that, the depth was not that great. You have Zacchaeus, which is not terrible, but he's not your long-term starter at the slot. He's maybe a 1-year rental, maybe 2 if he shows out this year, but probably not going to get the opportunities now with Luther Burden. And Luther Burden, I think, is going to be here for a while. And not saying it's going to happen this year, but sort of having that insurance policy where, God forbid, DJ Moore doesn't work out or Rome Odunze doesn't work out. You're not sitting there like, damn, what are we going to do next? You've got Luther Burden there. And if he pans out, your hands are not tied. And you're not saying to yourself, we absolutely have to re-sign these guys no matter how bad they do, just because what else are we going to draft? What else are we going to replace them with? You've got a guy right there that can sort of, step in. Obviously, you want everyone to work out. But in the NFL, unfortunately, there are going to be some of these draft picks and some of these players that might fall out of the scheme or might not be as productive as they once were. And that happens on every single NFL team, the best and the worst. So, obviously that's not what I'm hoping for. But Luther Burden just sort of gives you that versatility for the future, and also for now, for Ben Johnson, just have fun with that offense. And I'm sure Caleb Williams, through the first 2 picks, is the biggest winner of this NFL draft. And I'm Caleb Williams looking at pick 39. I'm thinking, man, did I die and go to heaven? Because this is amazing. So I'm excited for what Ben can do with this new and improved receiver room.
Yeah, and then so back and slashing with you guys, maybe simultaneously, what did you guys both think about it? What were your thoughts on Luther Burden, and how you think he fits with the team?
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked. Like I was shocked, but I mean, I feel like, at the time, obviously Judkins went off the board to the Browns, and then I think TreVeyon went literally the pick before, I think 38th pick. So I mean, at that point, you got to go best player available, and I feel like this offseason, like, I like the receivers we had, but we didn't have like a speedster. Like, I feel like we don't have a guy that's like really fast, and I feel Luther Burden really fits that role. I'm not sure if he's a JMO, because like JMO is like a 101. Like, he's really, really fast. He's a really good like downhill receiver, but he is this guy. I think Luther Burden is like a yak merchant, which is really good. We do need a guy that can get us yards after the catch. So I really like the pick. And again, this is like a Ben Johnson pick, right? Like, get stack the receivers, give the quarterback a lot of options. Obviously, at that time I did want like an edge, because again, I've been really wanting an edge since like 2022. Been wanting another edge to pair up with Montez Sweat. But obviously, I like the pick, and I think it could really help Caleb Williams. And I feel like Ben Johnson's basically giving Caleb Williams and this like offense, like no excuses. Like he's stacking everything for this offense. And I'll be honest, man, like we gotta be like a top 8 offense next year. If we're not a top 8 offense next year, like this is a failure. Like actually, like because I can't like name another team, or like maybe I can name like 2 teams maybe that have like a better on paper team than the Bears. I mean, because the way you guys are talking about Loveland, and I feel like he'll be good, and Cole Kmet, who I have a lot of praise for, and I think DJ Moore, you know, we've seen what he can do with, I don't know, 6 quarterbacks. And Rome Odunze showed a lot of flashes last year. You have DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson. So you have a lot of weapons, and I just feel like there's just no excuses for Caleb. And I know he's gonna play well, so I'm not trying to like devalue Caleb, but I'm just saying like we better be like a top 5 offense next year, like because this is like so many like weapons, and it can either be a really good thing or a bad thing. But I think it'll be a good thing, and I'm just excited to see how Luther Burden will be incorporated into this offense. But I mean, I feel like this pick overall was just a best player variable pick, and I'm not mad about the pick. I like it a lot, and yeah, I agree. He could be like a safety valve for the future if one of those 2 top receivers that we have like DJ Rome doesn't work out. But I do think they'll work out because we did give DJ Moore an extension, and he's been a very reliable target for Caleb. And I'm really high on Rome, so you know, you never can go wrong with like 3 receivers. So I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, and so back, I think you were pretty positive on Lupe. I know that in your video today you gave it like an A- or an A. Really quickly, your thoughts, and then we'll go to Davey.
Yeah, it was kind of pretty similar reaction. I was kind of surprised we took a wide receiver that early, or like we even took a wide receiver at all at that point. But then I realized like it's Luther Burden. It's like it was. If you think about it, in the early mock drafts, he was like on the consensus, he could have been the number 1 wide receiver taken in the draft, and he was like genuinely like really good. And I never really saw his tape like all the way through until I started editing my like video about him, and I was like, oh my god, this guy is like nuts, like genuinely nuts, because it's like very shifty, very very fast, like all the traits that you can try to describe Jameson Williams is literally in him. And he has the yards after the catch as well. And at the time it was like, yes, we like the running backs were kind of running dry at that point. And then I was kind of wondering, like, are we going to take Caleb Johnson at that point, or like are we going to like take someone like an edge rusher or something like that, or like I think Nick Scoronton were still there at that point. But and I was kind of wondering if he was there, he was going to be taken as well. So that goes without saying. I love this pick. I think this dude's a dog, and he's again another safety valve for Caleb Williams, another weapon. Can't go wrong with that. And Ben Johnson having 2 back-to-back picks with focusing on the offense shows you the direction the Chicago Bears are going, and that is a pass-first offense. And this is history in the making, guys. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree. I agree with your comment, Alan. I think that Luther Burden is definitely going to be better than Keenan Allen, because I think that Keenan Allen, we got him at kind of the end of his career, and people say, "Oh my God, hey, Caleb had this extraordinary supporting cast last year. He's a bust because he couldn't put it out there." It's only really a few people that actually hate Caleb and can't get over Justin. For example, First Round Mock, if you're watching this, come debate me. That being said,
he won't. He won't.
Yeah, he won't. But the fact that he stretches out the field a little bit more, he's a DJ Moore, I think that's better than what Keenan Allen gave you last year. But Davey, we'll go to you. What do you think about Luther Burden? And yeah.
Yeah. I really do like the pick. I gave it a B+ grade. Here's the thing with Luther is that, there are some very clear weaknesses to his game that very well could hinder him at the NFL level. To me, one of the biggest things is that he does try to do a little bit too much. Sometimes there's times where he gets the first down, then tries to make a move by going behind the first down marker. You do that once in the NFL and you are going to lose a lot of playing time. He also does have alligator arms, middle of the field. If he has a deep ball, I've seen a lot of times where he won't, he won't even put hands up to attempt to catch a ball so that he can avoid the hit that sometimes isn't even there. So there are some worries, which is why I can't give it an A+. But I mean, ultimately, really huge weapon after the catch. He's going to fit right into the slot alongside Colson Loveland on the other side. And, when you want to have 4 receivers out there for the formations. And to me, when I see Luther Burden, I see a guy who got really bored after being first team All SEC in a bad offense. Quarterback play was not good at Missouri. The offensive play calling was not good at Missouri. There were some games where you could tell that he was not really fully engaged with what was going on. I remember the game against Alabama. He had 3 catches for 3 yards, a stat line I've never seen before personally. But you could kind of tell he was just getting the ball and, tried to make a couple moves, didn't run his routes with the intensity you want him to. So there's a lot of reasons why this could not work, but ultimately to me, you put him in a room with DJ Moore, you get Cole Kmet to be a veteran leader in that room. I think those are all things that help to provide a really good future for Luther Burden. So I'm happy with the pick. I think he was the best player available at that time. And so to me, I gave it a B+. But it really depends on those weaknesses, man.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. I think that Mizzou's quarterback situation and Mizzou's, they're both kind of the same. And again, I think some of it also may be a little, but some of the concerns is, hey, is Luther okay placing at all the targets? And he said, yeah, I'm good. I'm going to block. I'm going to do whatever it takes to help this team win, to get this team to the next direction. So that's kind of what you want to see. The fact that, when he didn't get drafted, he practically went into the gym. I'm like, damn, it would kind of be nice if we went in and got Luther Burden. Like, I know, we're rich at wide receiver, but what if we miss out on Hendrickson and Judkins? It'd be cool to go and get Luther. So the fact that we got him, I was pretty happy. It was pretty hyped. We're going to go quickly for these next few draft picks, just considering their impact. They're kind of relatively new on the board. But we'll start off with Ozzie. Really quickly, your all thoughts on the trade down on Ozzie. Maybe you feel like we shouldn't just stay pat at 41 with Ozzie. What you guys thought about that decision to pick Ozzie and your reaction to it. We'll start up with Stevie, and then we'll go through the same pattern.
Yeah, Ozzie Trapilo, man, offensive tackle out of Boston College. I like the pick. It wasn't a player that I had on my board a ton, but I did see his name pop up a few times in the mock drafts. Now, obviously, I'm no scout, so take that with a grain of salt. But first thing that jumped out the page as soon as I saw him, 6'8", 315 pounds. Already right there, that already puts you at a high category for a grade there if I had to give this a grade. Another reason why I love the pick is it's an offensive lineman pick. I mean, obviously the starters are sort of already set, and we went ahead and attacked that in the free agency, but you can never have too many offensive linemen. Same thing with defensive linemen, which we'll talk about with the next pick. But as for Ozzie, man, I love the versatility, and I love the fact that Ryan Poles recognizes that, you're not going to have backups or solid backups at every single offensive line position. Like, if you lose all 5 of your starters, you're screwed no matter what. That's just the injury bug getting you. But, for Ozzie Trapilo, for most teams, you're going to lose a guy here and there. Hopefully we don't suffer any, knocking on wood. Hopefully we don't lose any season-ending injuries or whatever. But if that were the case, at right tackle or left tackle, at either guard spot, Trapilo can go ahead and step in, and you're not throwing in a guy like Nate Davis or Matt Pryor or Bill Murray or whatever. You're throwing in a guy who was drafted in the second round. And as for the pick itself, like if we should have stayed there or not, I do agree with the trading back. And it was actually something that I had predicted a lot of times throughout the offseason. It was mostly for if we traded up from pick 10 to pick 5 and sort of like recoup some draft picks. But I was also completely fine with it at 39. Having those 2 second-round picks does give you that flexibility that literally no other team had. And so when you look at, where we were picking, pick 39, you already had most of your players gone. So you go BPA with Luther Burden. And at pick 41, the Bills, or maybe Ryan Poles called up the Bills and said, "Hey, let's make a trade out of here with this." And you come away with an extra second round pick after already having 2 and a 4th round pick. And I think sort of like my funny / favorite part about this trade is the fact that Ryan Poles historically has been terrible in the 3rd round. So you can't mess up in the 3rd round if you don't have a pick in the 3rd round. So I love that, that maybe Ryan Poles recognizes, maybe stay away from the bad juju. And, he's hit on 5th round picks with Braxton Jones. Obviously you drafted Torrey Taylor in the 4th, who looked solid this year. So, if he's going to sit there and have faith in the other picks, a 3rd round pick is not the end of the world. So I'm very happy with the trade back. I'm very happy with the player. A little fun fact too, his dad actually played in the NFL, Steve Trapio. He was drafted in the 4th round in 1987. So, he does have those football genes in him. So you'd love to see that. But I like the pick. He's super athletic too. He has a really nice RAS score. Obviously the combine isn't everything, but we know Ryan Poles. He loves his athletic guys at every position. So I love the pick. I love the pick automatically since it's an offensive lineman pick. I give this pick sort of like an A- grade, maybe because there was other players I probably would have taken, but offensive lineman really, any trenches really for me is already an A+ or already an A grade, and I just kind of add on based on the player it is.
Yeah. Why don't we go to you two and your thoughts on Ozzy?
Yeah, I mean, real quick, like I feel like, I don't even know. I'll be honest, man. I'm a casual when it comes to offensive linemen. Like I only knew like Membu and like Banks and Campbell, but I heard he's good. But me personally, man, like I felt like there's a lot of really good players that slipped from round 1 that I felt like we should have taken. But obviously, like Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson obviously know more than me, but I feel like me personally, I would have went with JT Talamalu from Ohio State. I really liked him. And I like, obviously I like Will Johnson. Like I had him going like top 15. I do understand he does have like a leg problem or something, but I mean, he's a god amazing prospect. I thought he was the 2nd best corner in the draft, behind obviously Travis Hunter. And then, so those are the 2 players I would have probably taken. And obviously Mike Green slipped, due to his like allegations, but I do like him a lot. But again, I think, offensive line, prioritizing the offense, I'm fine with that. Hopefully he works out. But yeah, I don't know too much about his game, but I heard he's good, and I think he's like 6'8", so he's tall.
Yeah.
So he could be good, but obviously there were some good players I feel like we passed up on, but I'm fine with it. If Ben Johnson's okay with it, again, I know this is a common theme, but Ben Johnson's okay with it, that's fine with me. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and then I'll go to Throwback and then end with Davey here.
See, I think there's when the pick happened, I was already convinced it was an A+ for one reason and one reason only, because of the person that announced that pick. Because that, I don't know if you
Seth
what's your thoughts on that? It's Roman Reigns,
Beautiful,
dude.
Not Seth, it's Seth Rollins.
Sorry. Oh my god, why am I saying that? I'm sorry. I'm a very casual when it comes.
Acknowledge
to
your tribal chief. Acknowledge
my
him.
bad.
Yes, sir.
But I will say that alone, had so much aura in it that made like all the concerns for Ozzy go away from it. But if we're talking about for real though, it fit the Ben Johnson scheme again. Like Slashing said, it's a common theme here. This dude is 6'8", like a big dude. And, from what it says, he's pretty good at blocking and protection and stuff like that. So I'll take it. You can't have too much offensive line depth, especially from a year where Caleb was essentially sacked 70 times, running for his life. And the priority is the offensive line at some point. And Brian Poles is making sure that they are getting an offensive line. And you also have pieces that are still on the team, like Karan, and what was it? Braxton Jones is also a question mark as well. So I like this pick. I wasn't too crazy on it. But I'm looking forward to seeing how Ben Johnson utilizes him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Dave, you want to end it for us?
For sure. I won't lie. I'm really not a fan of this pick. I wasn't a fan at the time, and I watched the film, and I think I'm less of a fan. I genuinely don't see what they saw in him. Here's the positives. When he gets his hands on you, if he has the leverage, if he has the strength to do it, I mean, he has very strong grip. He has a really strong anchor. You get a smaller defender on him, he will maul that person and take them out of the play. But he moves, he lumbers. I mean, he takes a second to get to the next level. I don't think he's a fluid mover. I think he's somebody who has to, really start going in order to get going. He's very reactive, not proactive. I see a lot of times where you can almost see the light bulb moment of his where he's like, oh, I need to block that guy over there, as opposed to knowing this is where my assignment's going to take me. I'm going to have to get up to this level and find somebody. He goes, oh, now I should start getting over there. So, he is really raw. I don't see the fluidity in his movement or his thought process yet. Those could come with time, but ultimately he's a big dude. It takes him a while to get going. His pad level will never be lower than some of these elite, edges. He does have the flexibility to go inside if needed, but then you have a 6'8" guard staying in front of Caleb Williams, who all the haters told me is actually like 5'7", even though he's not. I don't care for the pick. I gave it a D+ grade. I like having depth. I like having flexible depth. I just don't think that's the guy they should have brought in to do it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I didn't really hear of the guy until we drafted him. But then I went in and I saw Brendan Thorne's overview on him. He said that, Ozzie was probably the most pro-ready offensive lineman. So that's something that you want to see. But again, I'm 6'8". That's a big body to move, let's be honest. So, a little bit slow. That's kind of some of the issues. Overall, I'll probably give it like a B-. But yeah, we'll go really, really quickly for the next views. I'll give you guys like a minute. If you guys kind of want to talk about the next few. So it's Sherman Turner. Then we'll go to the other dudes. So just like a minute, you guys' thoughts on the draft pick, what we could have done instead. We'll start with CV.
Yeah, really quick. He was my favorite pick of the draft. If you guys can see on Twitter, I've already made kind of like a fan page for him. So my favorite pick in the draft, man. I love this. I love the fact that he's versatile, and just like the last pick as well, you see what Ben Johnson is going for, Ryan Poles is going for, a guy that can play all across the defensive line. Now, obviously, there are some things he needs to polish up in pass rushing, but I love the versatility he has. I don't like the sort of attitude that he has. He does have some of those, like, I guess you can quote unquote character concerns on there, where he's causing a lot of 15-yard penalties. And he did have a down year in 2024. I have the stats right here. He did go down from 10.5 tackles for a loss to 5.5, and then 6 sacks down to 2. A lot of it could be also the defensive play calling. I know that was sort of the excuses made for Shamar Stewart and Nick Scorton, but I do think he's going to be great at the NFL level. And when you have a defensive line that already has Deo, Montez Sweat, Billings, Grady Jarrett, and Javon Dexter, I think he slots in very perfectly and allows Dennis Allen to sort of go around and be able to use all players at will. And I actually have a really quick comp for him too. And a lot of people are not going to see this coming. And it's not even a football comp. It's a baseball comp. He reminds me a lot of Carlos Zambrano. You guys remember him from the Cubs, Chicago legend, man. Great for us and everything, but the one thing we always known him for is the attitude problem, the getting himself thrown out of the game and stuff. And that's kind of what I see out of Shamar Stewart, a guy who when he's in there, he plays good, but man, you got to keep a leash on that guy, because if he gets angry, man, it could be trouble, and he can kind of, hurt your team. Now, of course, getting thrown out of the game or, yelling it up is probably not as bad as, getting a 15-yard penalty in a crucial moment. So that's something that Shamar is definitely going to have to fix, and that's something that's not going to be as acceptable as it is in baseball. But I thought I'd throw in a little funny comp in there. So that's my take on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what about you two?
Yeah, real quick. I think it was a good pick. I do agree. His versatility really makes his pick really interesting for me. Yeah, I mean, I like it. We do need someone in the D-line, build the trenches. So, not too much to say about this pick. I really like it. And, yeah, I think it'll work out, because I feel like he can – I heard he could play, like, most of all positions in the D-line. I don't know. I might be wrong. But, Yeah, so I like the pick just because of versatility, depth. And yeah, I think this is a promising D line, and yeah, I like the pick. I mess with it.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
back.
the amount of times I confused myself or like I said Shamar Stewart instead of
Me
Shamar
too.
Turner,
Yep. Me too.
I'm like, oh shoot, we drafted Shamar Stewart. I was like, oh wait, no, but uh, but
Our
at the end of
cry.
the day, like he's a great prospect. I mean, like nothing like too crazy besides like the character like the if that's like the the character concerns that like you know I think that will be straightened out with this defensive sorry, I'm like trying to put words together right now. Wait. So with this defensive staff, that's what it is. Okay.
Mhm.
So with this defensive staff, they're not going to allow that at all. And I think it comes with, understanding the NFL level. And once he gets here and once he's like familiarized with self, I think he'll, buy in and, hopefully things will kind of turn around in that department. But as long as he puts his head down, works, and all that, I'm completely fine with the pick. He has all the intangibles to be really good for this defensive line, so I'm pretty okay with the pick.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
about you, Davey?
I totally agree with Stevie. It's my favorite pick of the draft for the Bears. I gave it an A grade. Listen, and the aggressiveness is not just in penalties. He also has been known to over pursue. He's just very aggressive. He's going to have to rein that back a little bit, especially at the next level as he gets to the speed of the NFL. But he has a whole rotation of guys where he can slowly work himself into that level of play. He's really, really quick off the draw. One of the things that really jumps out about his tape is, man, the second the ball is snapped, he is up in the offensive lineman's face. A lot of times you see the quarterback is taking his cadence back and he's got a center being pushed right back into his lap. So it's because Shamar Turner is ready to rock at the go. He's strong. He is good at stopping the run. He can reach out and grab guys, goes for the ball. He doesn't have a lot of forced fumbles, but man, you'll notice on the tape that he reaches out with a ton of strength and goes for that football in the trenches. So I think he's going to be a really, really solid addition to this team. And the defense is going to be a lot better off with a guy like him out there.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think this was probably one of our better picks. I have a friend that likes Texas A&M football. He's a big Texas A&M fan. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? And he's like, you guys got a stud. You got versatility all over the defensive line. He played edge. He was probably going to start had Sproton not transferred in and really bend that edge to the fact, when people say, hey, where's that edge? Where's that edge? He's probably our edge, if you think about it. I love this pick. I like it a lot. And it's kind of funny that we're going to go from this pick to arguably kind of the worst pick, in my opinion, with their next pick. I don't really understand what Pose was thinking here when he went with Ruben Hypocrite the second. But maybe you guys have some different thoughts on it. I'll go really quickly. I don't know too much about the pick. He's fast off the line. He's like a linebacker with rocket wheels. But I really love the pick. I think we probably should have gone running back. But your guys' thoughts on it? I would probably give this a C-. I'm going to be honest. But yeah, what do you guys think about it? We'll start off with Sobak. We'll go to CB and we'll end with Davey.
Yeah, I was a little bit like when I first saw the pick, I wasn't necessarily moved necessarily. I was like, oh, why are we taking a linebacker right now? But then again, like when his RAS score came out and he was like a 9.5 plus, it was just like, oh, I see now. And that's, I guess, the common theme outside of one pick in this draft, where it was just like, is the player in the green? Yes, we'll take him and all that. I mean, it's like, it's good. I think adding the depth to the linebacker position is important, especially, when it comes to a late stretch in the season. And when push comes to shove, you need and their injuries start to pile up and whatnot. But I think it could also be beneficial down the line, because with the Tremaine Edmonds contract, and if we can help, develop this guy, it would be, good bang for your buck at that point because you took him very late and you can develop him behind like TJ Edwards, Tremaine Edmondson, etc. and that D line. So I think this is more like a low risk, high reward kind of thing, which makes kind of no sense in a sense. But I'm okay with it. But at the same time, I'm not a huge fan of when it first happened at all. Like I think I gave it like a C minus, like if on like a good day, and it's like a D plus for me.
How about you, CB? What did you think about it?
Yeah, this was by far my least favorite pick. I'm gonna give this one a D minus. And honestly, I will say I'm pretty much a draft casual here. This is my first year really, doing deep dives into drafts, so I could be very wrong on this. And this is just one of those things where I kind of have to trust Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen. Just be like, you know what, you probably know something I don't, so let's just see how this plays out. Now, keep in mind, I still have a ton of faith in the kid, and I still have faith in the coaching staff that they can get this done. There's a reason why they picked him in the 4th round and not in the 7th round or not as a UDFA or whatever, if he were to last that long, of course. But this pick really just screams a Dennis Allen pick for me. You let go of Sanborn and you have Noah Sewell there, who I thought was, obviously not as good as Sanborn, but I feel like he could have filled in that slot somewhat decently for at least this season. So to get him in the 4th round, a guy that when I first heard of him, or when the pick was first announced, I went to look him up, and one of the things that stuck out to me is the fact that I can't find out how old he is. I don't know if you guys can find that out, but I can't find anywhere that says anything about his age, and I'm like, okay, that should kind of tell me how much notoriety he has. Now, he could be a diamond in the rough, but I know he's blazing fast with like a 4.39 40-yard dash, and that's great and all, but linebacker wasn't a big need. I really wish we would have gone running back. Really wish we would have gone edge. I honestly would have been fine with another defensive tackle or an offensive lineman at that case. But Ruben Hippolyte, man, I really hope he, turns out to be good for us and he just shuts me up. And I hope in a year or 2 or 3 that I come back to this and I look like a complete idiot and just be shut up about this. So I'm just going to have to trust Ben Johnson, Ryan Poles, and Dennis Allen on this one. And just hopefully it turns out to be something decent, man, because as of right now, I can honestly make an argument for myself. This is an F pick or a D minus in my opinion.
Yeah. How about you, JP?
Yeah, I don't think I'm as low on it as a lot of people are. First of all, his best trait, if you ask anybody at Maryland, is his leadership. I mean, the team, the coaches, they love the guy, and this is a really aggressive player, really fast. He is going to be a fan favorite. I mean, this is somebody who the fans are going to love. Now, the tape has a lot to be concerned about. He does not always get to the correct hole that he's supposed to be plugging in a run game, which has led to some big runs against Maryland. He doesn't always take the best angles to the ball carrier, but he's able to make up for it because he's so fast. This is the kind of guy who does chase down running backs on a very consistent basis. So, he can accelerate. He's agile. He's fast. He gets swallowed up by really big offensive linemen. This is the kind of guy where you have to have a specific role in mind for him. I could see him being like the 3rd linebacker if you want to run, a base 4-3 defense to keep it in simple terms on running downs, because if they do pass the ball, which so many teams are doing on 1st down now, he has the ability to cover. He has the ability to make up the ground necessary. But I don't see him as a future, superstar linebacker in the NFL. I gave it a C+.
Yeah. For me, I didn't really understand the pick when it was picked, and I still don't understand it right now. I don't know if Bill is still here, but he provided, he said, hey, this guy's underrated. He's a great guy. He can provide a lot of flexibility to this defense. So I'm really gonna give this a chance. I think obviously if Dennis Allen saw something in him, Ben, I'm going to trust it as with Ozzie. Bring in Dave Bouchard, willing to give it a chance. So for these next 2 picks, we're going to go pretty quickly. I'm just going to give them, I'll let you guys take it from here. We went Zaw Fraser, Luke Newman, and then Kyle Mungungai. Your guys' thoughts on the last 3 picks. What you guys will give overall those guys a grade. We'll start off with you, Sobek, and then we'll go to CB, and then we'll end it with Davey. So between like a minute or so.
I mean, yeah, just to kind of go over it pretty quickly. I think at that point in the draft, it was just kind of plugging in like positions that of need and depth because a corner we already have a pretty set corner like in terms of our secondary. But Za Frazier is really good. And I think for the value you get at that late stage in the draft, I can't complain too much about that. Um, Luke Newman, the offensive guard from Michigan State. I like that move too. Just another depth piece as well from the guard position. Can really learn under the current starters and kind of develop from there. And then finally, Kyle Monangai, really great pick. I think it was one of my favorite picks in the draft. Obviously, I barely knew much about him until like I found out like, oh my gosh, like, he's actually really good value for getting him in the 7th round. So love that pick for us. We've been begging Ryan Poles to get a running back the entire draft. And he's like, God damn it. All right, fine. Here you go, guys. Like here's a running back for you, so like, I love this. I think these moves were really solid at the end of the day. Nothing much else to say.
Yeah. What about you, CB? What do you think about those last picks?
Yeah, I was pretty high on the Za Frazier pick. You got a 6'3" corner, ran a 4.36. So there's the athleticism that you just can't teach, and obviously it attacks a position that needs a lot of depth. Unfortunately, we have guys already at the starting positions, and Jalen Johnson, Tyreek Stevenson, and Kyler Gordon. But I really like the pick for the situation it creates in the Bears cornerback room, especially for Tyreek Stevenson. Because this guy has the athleticism to take his job, just based off that. And if he gets coached up correctly, he could very well take his job, especially with how Tyreek Stevenson had the season last year. Now, obviously, a lot to blame on the coaching staff. So, Stevenson could absolutely turn it around because we saw what he did in the second half of his rookie year. Ended up being a solid corner that year. So I really hope he does come back to that form. But it sort of creates that healthy competition. Obviously, you have Terrell Smith there, who's another guy that I really like as well. That could be in line to take his job as well. Hopefully, it doesn't come to that point. But obviously play the best guys in the field and just go along with it. As for Luke Newman, I really like the pick as well. Don't know a ton about him, but he's an offensive lineman pick, plays guard. I think he's also versatile as well, and I think he's played center as well. So, of course, offensive lineman, like I said before, can never have too many offensive linemen. And I think from what I've heard about him going against Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, I think he did hold his own. And he was pretty much the only offensive lineman on Michigan State that actually did solid. Apparently, everyone else was just complete garbage, and he was the only one that really stood out. Obviously, he's a 6th round pick for a reason, so nothing that jumps off the paper too much. But going on to Kyle Monangai, the Rutgers running back, also a 7th round pick, just like Isaiah Pacheco, who's also from Rutgers, a 7th round running back. And when you turn on the tape, man, you just see the effort that you just simply cannot teach with a lot of NFL players and a lot of rookies. I really like that pick. And at first I didn't really know too much about him either, but when you turn on the tape and you see how he runs, even though he's not the athletic freak that a guy like Ashton Jeanty or Travion Henderson are, but you look at him and you just say, man, like he overachieves based on his athleticism, based on expectations. And he's kind of like, he's the epitome of that saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. So I really like that pick. And, will he have an impact year one? Probably not. Very well could, just like Pacheco did. But, I think Ben Johnson is definitely leaning towards that pass-heavy offense and sort of having those running back by committee that maybe like the 49ers used to run before they got CMC. So I could definitely see, Swift, Roshan, and Monangai all being used and all playing key roles. And also Monangai was a really good pass protector too. So it reminded me a lot of Travion Henderson, actually. And even though he didn't maybe face the competition that Henderson did, he was really good in pass protecting. So I do like that a lot. Hopefully it translates to the NFL level. But as for these last 3 picks, man, I really like him. I'll give him a B+ on all of them. Nothing game-changing for sure. Not like anything crazy fell, but I do really like those picks.
Yeah, what about you, Davey? I mean, you watched this Michigan State versus Michigan game, so you might have a little bit more emphasis, analysis on Luke, even maybe Kyle. What do you think about, those last 2 picks?
Yeah, my favorite of the 3 is Frazier. I honestly, the more that I watch him, I think he's a safety in the NFL, and I think he's going to be a really good safety in the NFL.
heard
6'3", so fast. When I watch him, so he didn't play a lot of man coverage in college, a lot of zone coverage, but he could sit on the underneath routes and like a cover 2, like how you'd see Charles Tillman back in the day. He's fine doing that, but he's so good heading back on that cover 3 route when they have to get the deep outside zone as a corner. He was a center fielder back there, so I really see a vision of him being a part of a deeper defensive backfield in the NFL. I like Luke Monangai. I think he'll be a 2-down back in the NFL. He is a very tenacious pass blocker, but he is small. He's a smaller guy, and these 6'3" linebackers in the NFL, man, they're going to have a chance to run this guy over. So I think that he'll be a 2-down back, but I could see him getting 150 carries this year, 10 per game, on first and second downs, keep the chains rolling a little bit. Roschon Johnson's really good on the goal line, but so is Kyle Monangai. So you kind of have 2 options for short yardage conversions this upcoming season. The one pick I do not like is Luke Newman. He did have a pretty solid game against Michigan. I think that was probably the game where he showed up best. He has the shortest arms of any guard in the draft this year. And he also alligator arms a lot, which you hear a lot for receivers when they get the ball up the middle, they pull their arms in, but Kyle Newman gets out of his stance and his hands come all the way up to his chest. So he really allows the defender to make the first move. And if you can mirror and you can, parry that away, then you have an opportunity. But these really good pass rushers at the next level, they're going to be very aggressive. They're going to get into his chest, and I don't like his anchor either. So I think he would take a lot of work. That was my least favorite pick of the draft. I gave that a D-, and just having the exceptional depth now with the ability to play multiple positions, that's really what saved it from an F pick for me. But the other 2, I do like those picks. I think Zach Frazier has a chance to be an Eddie Jackson type pick. He can come in very early and make a huge impact and be a playmaker in the secondary. And I do want to give a shout out to one potential undrafted free agent that I kind of like they picked up, which is wide receiver J.P. Richardson out of TCU. I don't know if he's going to make the team, but I think he's going to be a preseason favorite. He was a true slot receiver at TCU, very quick coming out of his cuts, makes space for himself, and has a little bit of getaway speed as well. I think he's going to be that receiver that every year, us Bears fans, we have that one wide receiver in preseason that we won't stop talking about. And I think J.P. Richardson could be that guy if he gets that opportunity this year.
Yeah, with you guys, I didn't really know a lot about the last 3 picks. I like Luke Monangai probably the best, or Kyle Monangai, I mean. The fact that he offers you that speed, the fact that we've been saying, yo, Ryan, please get us that running back, and he got us it. Like the fact that he got a running back, I love the fact. I think that Zach Frazier is really, really good. He offers athleticism. And then Luke, I don't know if he was there when my friend played, but my friend Peyton Thorne was the quarterback went at Michigan State a couple of years ago. So he's a Michigan State guy. So I would go ahead and support it all just because of that reason. But I'd say overall, I thought the draft was pretty good. Hopefully you guys agree. And then the last question before we end it, you all, is, maybe your grade. We'll do this in a minute or so, but your grade on the overall draft. The running back, the lack of going for a running back. They didn't sign Nick Chubb, someone else, or Edge. Really quickly, a minute. We'll start off with you, Davey, and then we'll go to Sobek and then end it with CB.
Yeah, here's the thing with Ryan Poles is that if he can make a trade in the draft, he'll make a trade in the draft. We've seen him do it a lot. We saw him just last year calling Atlanta, asking if they could trade picks, moving up to 8 to 9. I mean, if he has a guy he really wants, he will do what it takes to go get him, whether that be a draft pick, whether it be a free agent move, whether it be a trade, saying, I'll give you a 4th round pick for this offensive lineman I really want. He does not care. So if he wanted these guys, I think he would have gotten these guys. I think he would have done anything it takes to get those guys. So to me, them saying we don't need Quinshon Judkins or Trevion Henderson, we don't need Tayshaun Boutte or Cam Skattebo, to me says they just didn't need them. They didn't feel like they needed those guys. So I like that they moved back and stayed put when they did. I think the process was good. And to me, I think they're walking out with a few guys who can be pretty solid contributors at this level, starting even this year potentially.
Yeah. What about you, Sobek?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty big mixed bag. And I think my grade kind of changed a little bit from the various perspectives that CV and Davey also gave. And I think like until we see the product on the field, I can't really give a definitive grade. But as of right now, and from all the stuff that I've been hearing from you guys and the various perspectives that I've been getting, I think this is a pretty mixed bag. And I would say like C plus, say B minus, maybe. Like that's a pretty fair draft grade. I feel like there was a lot of highs and a lot of lows in this draft class. But hey, time will tell. And will prove me wrong. Maybe this is like the best draft class we've ever had in Bears history or something like that. So as of right now, I kind of stands that this is like an average draft class, but I hope to be proven wrong.
Yeah. How about you, CB?
Yeah, this draft was definitely very different than the past drafts because I feel like in a lot of past drafts, we kind of had an idea for at least one player that we were pretty certain we were going to grab. Obviously, last year with the number one overall pick, you have Caleb, and then you had a Dunze that a lot of people talked about. This year, you had some sprinkles of conversation about Colson Loveland and maybe Burden once he started falling. But aside from that, everyone else was just kind of like, oh, I didn't know we picked this guy. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, especially when you consider the coaching staff we had. And my thing is, if we're going to have similar thoughts as the coaching staffs, that's probably not a good thing because there's a reason why they're getting paid the amount they're getting paid. And for them to have the same thoughts as us is probably not the best thing. So if I'm going to put my faith in something, it's the fact that, these guys who we believe are a lot smarter than us, think completely different than us, to draft guys like Ruben Hippolyte or Kyle Monungai or Luke Newman, So I really do appreciate that they kind of stuck to their gun. They didn't just listen to the crowd and say, oh, we need this guy. They didn't go after a Scadaboo at pick 41 or trade up a future first for Aston Genty to pick 5 or whatever. So I give the draft a B plus, or sorry, a B, not a B plus, not a B minus, just an average B. A lot of highs, a lot of lows. Nothing too spectacular, but like I said, Shamar Turner being my favorite pick there, and of course, helping out my fan club agenda. So very well there, but I do give it a B, and I do like the draft, and I am still very excited to see what that can accomplish on the field.
Yeah. How about you, Darby? I don't know if you give it a grade, but what would you say your overall grade on this draft is? And then we'll end it there.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll give it a B. I don't like a couple of the project picks, but you ultimately I think they got enough contributors and like the top few picks enough to give it that grade.
Yeah, me too. I'd probably go with a B minus. I didn't really understand a couple of the picks. I like the Aussie pick, but again, listening to what you had to say, Davey, I don't know about that. But we'll see. I trust in the coaching staff. I think if any coaching staff can get the most out of any player, it's this one. So I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, I want to thank you all so much for coming on. We're gonna go ahead and end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Look them up on their socials. And yeah, they'll all be saying thank you guys so much for watching, and bear down and peace out.
Bear down, y'all.
All right, I'm gonna end it here, guys. Hold on.